Welcome back to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. I'm so excited to have Burn Boot Camp member, my friend and former franchise partner, Beth Prus here today, okay? And so Beth will be sharing a story of her nephew, Nathan, and his story and her family's involvement with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Nathan was diagnosed with ALCL, and which is a form of lymphoma, and he is a very, very strong young man, young boy, who is fighting this cancer with literally everything that he has. Thank you so much for being here, Beth, to be vulnerable and support us around the Be Their Hero event and around our partnership with the LLS. And I know this will be difficult for you to talk about today, but also going to help so many people who are also going through tragedy or trauma or even specific lymphoma, same scenario as you and your family. So welcome, and we're excited to have you today to dive in, as I said. So why don't you go ahead and just do that and dive in and give us a little bit of background of yourself, your nephew Nathan, your family, and how we came to realizing that this was going to be a part of Nathan's story and the family story.
Sure, yeah. So as you know, I've been with Burn for years, having owned 2 of them up in Pennsylvania, but I've been a member for 6 years or so down in Charlotte. Have always loved it. But where Nathan comes in, my nephew. So last year, my family, we were on vacation, and I got a call from my brother. And my nephew had been admitted to the hospital because we thought he had pneumonia. And, you know, maybe people aren't like us, but we were like, oh, he'll be fine. He's a young kid, he's strong, whatever. Next thing you know, my brother was calling me on vacation and telling me that they thought he had cancer. And he was in tears. And so I just turned to our friends and said, we got to go. And scooped up our kids, and we drove back to Charlotte and went straight to the hospital, where my nephew was, in the PICU at that point. And it's just a horrible thing to see a child like that. And he had to go through a whole bunch of different tests to obviously get the true diagnosis, and that in and of itself took time. So that's an awful thing to go through, because you have to wait so long to get the diagnosis. And then when he was finally formally diagnosed with ALCL, that was also very hard, because not being in the cancer world, I had no idea what any of that meant. We didn't know what was going to happen at all. He was still in the PICU at the time, not doing great, so they had work to do there anyway. It turns out the cancer had spread all through his body. It was in his legs, in his lungs, in his shoulders, his neck, and everything. So, but they did a fantastic job at getting him healthier and healthy enough to begin chemo so he could begin his first round of treatments. Mm-hmm. He went through 6 months of chemo, and so he was in and out of the hospital a lot, missing school. This was mid-COVID too, so we had to be very, very diligent about who could be around him. Mm. So it was basically his family and our family. We live about 2 miles from them, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And my dad, who also lives nearby. And so we were very careful to make sure that we weren't getting Nathan sick, because as you know, kids with cancer have no immune system. And if they do get sick, they can't go to their next round of chemo, which screws everything up, and it's a mess. So he did get through chemo in November of this past year, and he seemed great. He seemed really healthy and like he was doing really well. And he was back in school, and we were all very excited, and we had an awesome Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the family things together. And then in late January, he was going in for tests, and the test showed that the cancer was already back. So there's no, they don't believe that chemo, he can't do chemo again, and they won't do that. So right now he's in a clinical trial for a drug called ensartinib, and it's a crazy drug. He goes in every week for testing because it can obviously really mess with your system. And I mean, it can do things like he gets eye tests all the time because it can cause blindness. And what it does is it holds the cancer at bay. So it's not a cure. It's just prolonging so he can live his life, and we can hope that some type of cure or something comes. So that's why I'm really excited to be here, because the OLS will be a big part of that.
And you guys are just getting involved, obviously, with the LLS since this happened. No need to otherwise. And you know, obviously, Burn Boot Camp, you're a huge part of our community, and you have been for a long time. It was very important to me that you were able to be here today and share this journey. You know, and you're in the middle of it, which obviously the uncertainty can create a lot of emotion, right, of not knowing necessarily what's going to happen in the future. But you've got Nathan's family, and you know, obviously the family needs a support system too, because it's not just, you know, the child that is, you know, it's the whole entire family. And so the LLS, you guys had really reached out to them, they reached out to you, and really.
It's a crazy thing when a kid gets cancer, the community just dives right in. And everybody was right away calling my brother and sister-in-law, and they also, I don't even know how they did it. They got my name because they knew my brother and sister-in-law would be overloaded with all kinds of things and had enough to think about. So people were calling me to say, how can we help? What can we do? LLS, local area things like Noah Strong and everything, people were just reaching out to say, what can we do? And so we're so lucky to have that. Nathan is also at a St. Jude affiliate hospital here in Charlotte, so that's a huge deal too, to have that here in Charlotte. And that support system of all organizations like LLS, to have that, as well as to have all of our family here in Charlotte, is huge. And then, you know, for me, Burn has always been my safe place, my home, my place. So when I get on the floor, that's where I can just do whatever, get everything out that I need to get out.
And just be present for a moment and
yeah,
hopefully take your mind off it for 45 minutes at least.
Yeah. It's when my mom passed away like 4 years ago, she was in the hospital for a little bit, and I was on that floor every day because that was my sanity. And same with Nate, like I'm on that floor for all of us, because otherwise I'd be a mess and I wouldn't be able to help them. And helping Ken and Meredith and Nate and Caitlin is the most important thing right now.
And it seems like you're really playing the role of staying strong for the family and doing your best to play that support role, take care of everything outside of all the things surrounding what really needs to be done, is getting him the best care possible. And it seems like you're the conduit for that for the family.
I try to be. I try to, for Meredith and Ken, his parents, obviously. I want them very focused on whatever they need to do, because what they're going through has got to be the worst thing on the planet. And so I try to do whatever I can for them. And sometimes, you know, they have to go to work. They have to do things too. So even if it's just taking Nate to doctor's appointments, or picking up Caitlin from school, or doing whatever we can. Thankfully, we are all here in Charlotte, like I said, and so we can help out in different ways. But I've been very blessed. Nate is a sweet, sweet boy, and you know, he's even asked for me to come to doctor's appointments with him sometimes, which that's the best thing I can hope for, is that he feels comfortable enough that even, like, it's not just his mom and dad, that he knows he has more.
So how's he doing currently? What is the outlook for the future? What was the hope? Obviously, what you hope for the future. Where are we at right now? And you're in the midst of the battle.
Yeah, I mean, the clinical trial, thank God for it, because he's crushing it.
Okay, great.
He's had no side effects from the drug.
Okay.
He is back at soccer, back at school. He's having his best soccer season yet. We're so proud of him. We love watching him play. And he's such a handsome, smart, strong kid, and he's back. He's able to play with his friends. There's nothing he loves more than hanging out with our boys. Yeah. And so he's doing really well. He goes in, like I said, every week for tests. So we'll just continue to pray that those continue to be okay. This is a clinical trial, so we're not sure how long the drug will continue to work. At some point, the toxicity will build up and it will stop working. And since it's a clinical trial for this drug, we don't know how long that will be. The previous version of this drug, it was anywhere between several months to 2 years. So we're hoping this one can last longer for him.
And the intention of it is to
it just
hold
keeps
the cancer at bay. And does it eliminate the cancer? Does it keep it at bay once this drug is, saturated in the system? How does it work post? You know, how they think it's going to work post the trial?
It will just stop working at a certain point.
Okay.
And so then the cancer will come back, and we'll have to figure out. Well, that's when we hope we have some type of cure. And if not, like I said, that you won't be able to go back to the chemo. So once the drug stops working, we'll have to figure out next steps. That might be bone marrow or something like that.
Okay. I was speaking to another parent of somebody who was diagnosed with blood cancer, and they were telling me how important hope is, right? Like how hope can be this thing that people that aren't experiencing darkness, staring darkness in the face. It can be this kind of fleeting, bad strategy, but like when it is the thing that you have, how does hope and faith play a role in what's going on with the family?
It really is everything. Like, I don't even imagine a day without him, because that's a horrible place to go.
Right.
And why would you want to think like that? You just got to believe in the best. And so we all do that. I think it's hard. Like, I knew Ken and Meredith, I'm sure, struggle with that every day. And you kind of want to be like, how in the world did my child get cancer? Like, I cannot even imagine those thoughts. But that's another part of what I try to do for them, is like make them laugh, bring them fun, and like show them, okay, look, we're going to keep going. We've got this type of thing. And so you just got to believe we do have this, because that's a crappy way to live otherwise.
The alternative is pretty crappy.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't know the science behind it, but I definitely know that positivity and optimism and support and love heals.
Yes.
Heals.
Yeah.
Right.
Flat out. Smile.
Yeah.
Just smile and you'll feel better automatically.
Thank you for sharing. It's obviously very difficult for you to share, but I'm glad that you were able to articulate the journey that you're on right now so well as to paint a picture for other people who are struggling with something similar or any other type of trauma. What would you say to someone who is in your shoes, or Ken's, or Meredith's, and what would bring a little bit of that positive, funny optimism to them? Because I think it is important to have some light in the face of darkness. What would you tell them?
I think it's an interesting thing. I think you have to find what fuels you, and what makes you tick and makes you feel better, and then you have to do that. And that's different for every person, right? And so figure that out. Find your people in your village, the people that you know are going to be there for you, and lean on them. I think, speaking as not the parent, but an aunt, it's hard sometimes, right? Like, I don't know what to do for Ken and Meredith and for Nate and Caitlin. And they're not going to tell you what to do, and you're not going to know what to do either, but you just be there, and be that smile and that light.
Is there anything else that was on your mind that we didn't cover that you might like to share? Anything that you'd like to say to anyone in particular or the group as a whole? Anything you forgot?
I just want to thank you guys for doing this, because I mean, Burn's always been a special place, but now with this connection to LLS, it means so much. And Burn's always, been special in my heart. But
You're
that
like
has
the definition of green blue, a raving fan.
that has just grown even more
Yeah.
with this, and I'm just so proud to be here as representing both Burn and LLS, because anything that we can all do to bring recognition and to help cure this, especially with children, would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are more than honored and excited about helping and about getting to a cure. And some of the things that have come out recently, really across the spectrum in terms of, how would you say, potentially existential illness, has been really promising over the last 5 years with advances in companies like LLS. We also support the MDA, being able to actually take the money that we're raising and flip it around and create clinical trials. Like, what is the drug that Nathan is using?
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, I'm sure that at someone's donation, like without our donations, that's not possible.
Exactly.
And so there's this direct correlation to Nathan's current treatment roadmap and what we're able to do as Burn Boot Camp and as an organization. And I always say that the gyms are just the fire pit in which it's the gathering place.
Yeah.
It's the fire pit of fitness, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we don't come for the push-ups, we come for each other,
Totally.
to support each other, not only in everyday struggles, but especially when there's a life on the line of one of our people, one of our family members.
Yeah.
And so we won't stop. Morgan and I's heart, the heart of our team, we won't stop. We're going to continue to support our communities. We're going to continue to do as more than we ever even thought we could possibly do, and push ourselves in that regard too.
Yeah.
And so you're welcome. And it means a lot that you're here today, sharing your story. I know it means a lot to Nathan, and hopefully he gets to listen to this and listen to the heart that his Aunt Beth has and Uncle Adam for him, and how much it really means to you and how much he really means to you. So thank you for being here. Anything else you want to share before we take it out?
No, just I love you, Nathan.
2 claps on 2. 1, 2.